Today we're going to be reading Isaiah chapter 25, verse 4. But you are a tower of refuge to the poor, O Lord, a tower of refuge to the needy in distress. You are a refuge from the storm and a shelter from the heat. For the oppressive acts of ruthless people are like a storm beating against the wall, or like the relentless heat of the desert. God promises us that He will be our shelter. He will be our refuge, that He is there for us in the time of the storm, in the time of need. But in His own timing and in His own way, He will be there for us. But the problem is, too often we read verses like this and we read them more like this. You are a tower of refuge to the poor, but you will never allow me to be poor. You are a tower of refuge to the needy in distress, but you will always keep me from being in distress. You are a refuge from the storm and a shelter from the heat, but you will stop the storm and you will not allow the heat. For the oppressive acts of ruthless people are like a storm beating against the wall, or like the relentless heat of the desert, but you will never allow oppressive people to act against me, God. Far too often we start to believe that God's not going to allow difficult things into our lives when He never promises that. Oftentimes, when we experience the storm, we ask questions like, where are you, God? Why did you allow this to happen? I think that's human nature, and I think that's kind of natural even to ask those things. But the truth is, God promises that He is going to be your shelter and your refuge. I remember a long time ago when Malia and I were first married and we were trying to have kids, and Malia got pregnant, and we were so excited that we were finally going to be parents. And I remember one day I actually had to travel for work, and I was hours away from our home, and Malia had one of her appointments for the baby, and at the appointment we found out that Malia had lost the baby. And we were devastated. And I remember Malia calling me on the phone, telling me that she had miscarried. And I was hours away, and I knew I needed to get in my car and I needed to drive home, the 3-hour trip home. And I was just crying and wailing on the way home, crying out to God, how could you do this to us, God? How could you allow this to happen? To be honest, I didn't understand God's plan. And to be honest, I still don't understand God's plan and why that happened when it happened. But I do know this. One thing I discovered during that time in my life was God as a refuge and God as a strong tower. And that is exactly what He became to me. I had to wrestle with the questions, and wrestling with these questions when the storms come in life, it's okay to wrestle through the questions. We need to wrestle through the questions. We can't just ignore them or pretend like this thing never happened to me or these things don't happen to us. And our story is that we still had 3 beautiful children later on in life, but I even know people watching this right now have not had that experience, and they desire it. The truth is, whatever you're going through in life, whatever your storm is, whatever that heat is, that God is there to be your refuge and to be your shelter. And He promises that for the believer. And so I want to encourage you today, if you are in the middle of a storm, if you feel like you're being oppressed, if you feel like you're in a storm, if you feel that hot heat drying out your soul, look to God, that He is there for you, and allow Him to be your refuge and your shelter today. Love you guys. I hope you have a great day.